The explosive new film, Flynn, deliver the truth, whatever the cost, exposes secrets behind the government's takedown of General Michael Flynn.
Flynn knew what the intel world had been up to.
He ordered the first audit of the use of contractors. This set off alarm bells.
He told the truth. He was the most dangerous person for Donald Trump to hire. They had to get rid of Flynn.
Flynn, deliver the truth, whatever the cost. Available now. Watch it today. Go to salemnow.com. salemnow.com.
Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Thursday. I'll just say it, May Day. If you listened to Jay Powell yesterday, you'll be calling 800-951-0592 today to get your gold and silver put away. AllAmericanGold.com is the website, and man, it was a long press conference after the meeting. Normally these things are like 20 minutes. This thing was approaching an hour long as Jay Powell, I don't know, Pinocchio, what do you want to call it? He was adamant. The big phrase you'll see today, listen, and this is what you need to worry the least about. But this is what they want you to take from the press conference from yesterday. Number one, he doesn't see stag and he doesn't see inflation. Yeah, he doesn't see stag and he doesn't see inflation. Yes, according to Jay Powell, there's nothing to worry about. Now, granted, we're not making progress, but we're committed. He's committed to getting it down to 2% eventually, at some point. We're not sure when. When is eventually? I don't know. But just like that movie where they don't see dead people, Jason, Jay Powell doesn't see it. He's looking at the data, but he's not seeing it.
I kind of thought we had stagflation after the 1980s, 70s inflation problem. I mean, we used to have pensions, right? We used to have vacations. We used to have one-parent working homes, and they can hide it all they want, but the lower standard of living has been going on ever since they detached gold from the dollar. So to say there's no stagflation, we've kind of had it all this time. Now it just looks like we have a serious case of stagflation. It's like the flu just got worse.
Yes, look how much progress we've made, and this isn't the 70s. I mean, the 70s inflation was, 10+%, and the unemployment rate was way higher, and you know what? I agree with all of what he said about that, right? Oh, gosh, look how bad it got. We're not there. And I agree. The problem is he forgot one word. Yet. Because that's where we're going. Make no mistake about it. I've already told all of you, I've been telling you now for the last several years. We know how this ends, and I will tell you when inflation is over. Demand destruction, i.e. you're fired. That's when the party comes to an end. And right now, Jason, we're starting to see, it's early. It's early. But when Starbucks, McDonald's, KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut all come out and say the exact same thing. Uh-oh. Less people are coming to get their mocha lattes and to get their Happy Meals, and yet apparently their steak burrito or whatever else they're trying to get because they don't have the money. It's very, very interesting, though, what Jay Powell had to say. Now, like I said, that he doesn't see stagflation. He doesn't see inflation. Try to convince everybody that we made progress. Just, we want to see, we need more time. And remember now, we're 10 months in since the last rate hike. How much more time is it going to be? Is the I don't see stag, I don't see inflation Is that going to be the new transitory for Jay Powell? Is that going to be are we going to a year from now listen to Jay Powell tell us, well, maybe we need to retire that, right, Jason? Maybe we need to get rid of that. This is exactly, it's really simple. They're in the box here. I don't think they can actually raise rates. Part of what got him frustrated was so many people kept asking him, well, did you talk about rate hikes? That was a great question. Hey, did you at least talk about it? According to Jay Powell, well, no, we didn't talk about that. That's not what the data's telling us. Jason, the data's not telling them that. So no, they didn't talk about rate hikes. Sure they didn't. Okay. Wait, no, he was coughing. Now maybe he was sick. I don't know. But, I kind of looked at it like this guy's a really bad poker player, and he's trying to convince everybody, maybe try to convince himself of what really is happening. But like I said, that wasn't the news. Matter of fact, it's hard to find the real important thing out there today. Had to do with the runoff of quantitative tightening. A bigger number than expected. It was already going to be big, right? Some people were talking about, hey, it could be 30 trillion. Oh, I'm sorry, trillion. That's ridiculous. 30 billion a month. I mean, they're only doing 95. It actually was bigger than that. $35 billion haircut, and guess when it starts? Remember when Jason and I told you, hey, get ready for June? June's going to get fun, like kind of March was fun. That's going to start June 1st, all of it in treasuries. So they're not going to scale back the selling off of mortgage-backed securities, all of it being done in treasuries. And Jason, I think it highlights how big the problem in the treasury market really is. Heck, he even talked about, remember what was it, the end of 2019 when we had the treasury blow up? He even brought that up. Uh-oh. And by the way, what were the Japanese doing? Oh, intervening again. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. A quick look in at the markets. It was a confusing market yesterday. At one point, the Dow was up over 400 points, finished up like 70. The S&P and the NASDAQ were negative. Today, they're positive, at least for right now. The Dow's up 200. The S&P's up 25. The NASDAQ's up 130. The 10-year note, 462, right? A little relief for the 10-year note as quantitative tightening, coming to a very quick end. So right now, for people that don't know, of the $95 billion a month, $60 billion of it was treasuries, $35 billion was mortgages. They just cut the treasuries from $60 billion to $25 billion. And why do I have a funny feeling in the next meeting or two it's going to go right down to zero because of an onslaught of supply coming from spiraling U.S. debt out there. Right now, gold's up 3, but I know Kiko will tell you it's down. Gold moved big in the aftermarket because, Jay Powell was talking when the gold markets, that 1 hour that the gold markets are closed so they can manipulate things. We'll see how this goes. I got a feeling gold, the bottoms may be in here, but we'll see how it goes right now. On the currency side, it's all about the Japanese yen. It got out of control again yesterday during Jay Powell's press conference. The Japanese stepped in once again. The Japanese yen right now at 154, so well off of that 160 level. It looks like, at least for now, that's the line in the sand for Japan. The problem is their 10-year note, almost 1%. That's unheard of in Japan. But, we've been telling you, this is going to be the year of chaos. We're trying to get you ready for the blow-up here. You need to have, you need to have it, as much gold and silver put away as you can. For those of you that have $50,000 or more, maybe you got a big IRA. You don't have to put, all of it in there. You can take an IRA. You got an IRA right now? Heck, you can take some of it, roll some of it into gold, roll some of it into our friends over at YRefi, and then maybe you keep the rest of it in the stock market if you want to be risky. I don't know. But do yourself a favor. At least check out YRefi. You can get up to 10.25% fixed rate of return. Why do I like it so much? Why am I telling you to do it? Because it's not correlated to the bubble. It's not correlated to the bubble of Wall Street. Listen, I didn't set up the boom and bust cycle. You didn't set it up. This is what the bankers have set up. They've set this up. We've been living in boom and bust since 1971. You know it. I know it. We all know it. How about having something that isn't correlated to that, and you still get 10.25 up to the worst case scenario? You get like 6.5 if you only go for a year. Go 5 years, you get 10.25. Check it out. Do yourself a favor. Be smart here. Don't wait. Here's the problem. Most of you are going to call. You know when you're going to call them? When the Dow's down 30, 40, 50%, right? That's the wrong time. Do it now while it's high. Check them out. InvestYRefi.com. The word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. Or just call them. That's easier. 888-YRefi24. And you know what? They're just like us at Patriot. They just tell it to you straight. They don't play any games. It's really simple. They're not going to bother you if you decide not to do it. Check them out, 888-YRefi24. So getting back to the big meeting yesterday. So he said they're not making significant progress getting back to 2%. Now, he's still saying, well, we made progress. I guess, yeah. I guess, that's that part of it. I guess was true. The problem is inflation's getting hotter again, and you're sitting there. So they're going to keep rates unchanged for longer. Right? So remember, most people were expecting them to start cutting rates in June. That's gone. I think most people today think maybe one rate cut this year. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't see any. That's just me, but, we'll see. But again, the big news was the huge reduction in quantitative tightening, all of it in treasuries, all of it, which just tells you the amount of stress that they actually see in these treasury markets. But it was interesting because guess what? Some people started taking Jason's line. How soon are we actually going to see quantitative easing, quantitative stimulus with high interest rates, which is unheard of? And I think that's what we're going to see. Jason, I think this is how much stress is really in the treasury market to take that big of a swing. Say, we're not going to do anything with mortgages. We're all going to do it on treasuries. And he also let it be known. Their plan is to stop selling treasuries altogether before they would even think about selling any mortgage backs or ending the mortgage back side.
And the Fed's got a really great little system, with their 12, heads. And they really control the narrative pretty good because they don't always tell the truth. But since COVID, since 2020, actually since 2019, when the repo market was failing, they've kind of said what they're going to do, and then they do it. So they leave it up to the media to mess things up so they can be wrong. And as you said, there were a lot of things that weren't asked. I wonder how many Fed chiefs are saying, I think we're going to cut rates, and how many Fed chiefs are like, well, we're going to hike rates. So that way, when they're talking to their little insiders in the media, you got people saying, well, we're going to hike. And the other people say, oh, no, we're going to reduce the rates. How come the one question wasn't asked? Is like, if I was there yesterday asking a question, Joe would have said, are you going to leave the rates right where they're at to the end of 2025? Because you were talking about what Jay Powell was saying. He's like, are you going to hike rates? He's like, no, we didn't talk about that at the meeting. Well, if they've already got a plan in place, they probably didn't talk about it, Joe. If they've already determined, let's say, 3-4 months ago, we're going to leave rates here until maybe the end of 2025, then it's true. There's no reason to talk about hiking rates. They've made a decision. So I think, while everyone's talking rate hikes or rate reductions, I think they're going to stay right where they're at. I think this is why he got a little emotional. He got a little hot when asked too many questions and said no stagflation, but that's kind of what they've got going. They've already had that for a couple of years as far as I'm concerned. I think when we look back, this will be the stagflationary period. And whether it gets hotter with inflation or we have a massive market crash, that's the only thing yet to be determined at the end of this, because stagflation, we're not going to have stagflation forever. It's always changing. And so I think when people start asking stagflation, I think the question, maybe he's worried that the question is going to come out. Are you just going to leave rates where they're at for a long period of time? I think that's the question he was sweating about. I think that's been determined. I'm really thinking that's it.
I think that's a big thing. I think, and Jason and I have talked about this, it looks like they're really stuck here, right? They're committed. They've kind of drawn the line in the sand of saying this is how high we were willing to raise rates, right? This 5.25 to 5.5. That was, by the way, the Fed's funds rate when right before Lehman collapsed, 5.25. That was the number that it got to before the Lehman collapse. And the Fed seems stuck on, we can't go any higher than that. And now the only thing that they can do now, Jason, is kind of what you said, which is, well, we're just going to leave it here. And we're just going to keep waiting and keep waiting and keep waiting. Hope is not a strategy. Right, because that's what we're hoping it comes down. Right, they talked about wages and say, well, we're hoping wages come down. Well, you know what? Even their numbers, which I guess are the Philadelphia Federal Reserve said, people that stayed in their job only went up 4.7%, and that was the good news. And job switchers, I think it was 5 something. But ADP, they do the private payroll. That's probably more accurate, and you hate to say it. People that stayed in their job, 5%. People that left jobs, 9.7%. That was yesterday's number. Then they talked about rents. Boy, Jay Powell spent, you know what, you would have thought this guy, he must be a rent expert out there. And he was saying that, we're confident that rents are going to come down. Because when their leases end, the people are going to find a cheaper place to live. That's what he said. I don't know where he sees that. But, Jason, this is what they're making. Listen, rents end for every month. People's rents end. Every month. You don't think people's rents came to an end in April? They didn't come to an end in March? They didn't come to an end in February? Right? They're not going to come to, when are these leases that he talks about coming to an end, and where are these people going to get the cheaper rent, Jason? And it was stunning as he kept saying it over and over, and these reporters were like, I think they were shocked, so they kept asking the question. And, one reporter would ask it this way, another one would ask it that way. And it really just turned into a big mess. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they're trapped here. They know they need to raise rates higher to stop inflation, but they know that they can't, because all as that does is mean the Treasury markets have more problems. Hundreds of more banks are going to fail. This morning, somebody on CNBC, hey, I got 284 banks that are all stressed out right now, and Jay Powell didn't help them yesterday. These are the problems that are out there, Jason.
And then the markets open higher the next day.
Well, because let's face it, right? He didn't raise rates, and he said he didn't see the stag, and he didn't see the inflation.
Right.
Right.
So that keeps the rate reducers all in their happy place, and And then you look at real numbers, and the rate hikers are still going to scream their side, and there's really not a very big contingent of rates stay the same, which I think the Fed's got everybody fighting. It's the fight two ideologies against each other. Nobody's asking what we're really going to do. Is we're just going to kind of sit here with like deer in the headlights and see what happens. Data.
He did do this. Well, my base case is still that we are going to lower rates at some point in the future as soon as the inflation data gets better, right? So he's sticking to, right, again, trying to help his Wall Street. By my base case, my personal base case is the next move we make will be lower. I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to lower rates, but it's not because they got inflation under control. It's not because the economy's, going to blow up. It's because the Treasury market is going to blow up. That's what I've never seen. You remember the last time they did quantitative tightening? Do you remember? They were doing like $10 billion. Oh, we're going to cut it $10 billion a month, and then we're going to cut it another, $5 billion the next month, and 3 months later another $10 billion. They went out $35 billion on day one, all of it in treasuries, and pretty much told the market, by the way, the $25 billion that's left, get ready for that to go away as well. You know what happens after quantitative tightening? I hate to say it, but this is the pattern. Quantitative easing. Yeah. Boy, that's when you see $3,000 gold, $4,000 gold. We're back here, Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason on this Thursday as, it's the year of chaos, and it is absolutely lived up to the billing. Today I got, 2 days ago we ran the $5 Indians sold out. Yesterday we had $5 Liberties, and we had several hundred of them. They're gone. They're gone. Just that fast. Today I got 2 new items today. Well, new to, they're not $5 Liberties or Indians. I've got a 5-ounce silver bars. So I know a lot of you like those silver bars. We've got 5-ounce silver bars at $150. So really priced right here. 5-ounce silver bars at $150. And then on the gold side, the $10 Liberty. So this is going to be the half-ounce pre-1933. $10 Liberties, 1 through 19 at $12.65. If you buy 20 or more at $12.60, tell you what, you want to buy 50 or more, $1,250 at 800-951-0592. And so, Jason, we really got a bunch of issues happening. Well, we've been talking a lot about Japan and what's happening in the yen, how all of a sudden a new gold customer has been born in Japan as the yen falls out of bed. Here, this is from Reuters, talking about, okay, where's Japan's money at? According to Reuters, they think that on deposit at the Federal Reserve, that Japan has an estimated $155 billion. They believe they spent $35 billion on Monday when they intervened in the yen. They intervened again last night. It looked, at least to me, it looked like a bigger intervention, but let's just say it was the same. Another $35 billion, right? So they essentially spent half of their cash, liquid cash, at the Fed. Where's the remaining money at? They have currency reserves of $1.25 trillion. $1 trillion of that is securities, all of it pretty much U.S. debt. $150 billion, the cash being held at the Fed. They said that Japan could spend about $300 billion before it becomes a major issue. In other words, at that point, the Treasury market, because they're going to have to be selling huge amounts of treasuries, it's going to become a problem. And right now, it looks like they're well on their way to doing so, because this 160 yen seems to be like a line in the sand for them. But it's amazing how much money is being spent to try to hold this thing together. And I think it's another reason why you see the Fed so aggressive and winding down quantitative tightening when it comes to treasuries, because there's an onslaught coming.
You know, when he said, Powell said, well, the next time we do anything, we're going to lower the rates, you know, and you know, he wasn't really saying much of anything. Because how long is that going to take? It could take 2 years from the lower the rates, depending on how much this sideways action is happening, Joe, depending on how slow this crash continues to go. I mean, I know they don't really want to have generally a lot of economic heartache before the election, so that takes us all the way to December, essentially. And that takes us into 2025. So, yeah, Joe, everything you're mentioning, it's on the plate, and I think it's interesting because there's not a whole lot of questions to ask Jay Powell. I'm surprised it took, you know, as I'm thinking about what you said because you paid attention to it. I didn't watch it. But for to drag on with essentially the same bag of questions, because there's not a whole lot of other questions to ask him. No wonder he went a little stir crazy because he's like, I've told you guys everything you need to hear. It's time for me to go. And he just wasn't tough enough to just say, okay, well, I've answered them all, bye. Which is what he should have done.
Probably should have done it, right? Probably should have done it.
The next round of questions might get worse. You know, they might want to. They might push him even harder. Once you allow something to happen, it can get worse, right?
Yeah, and you know, even Goldman Sachs talking about the tapering and talking about the drain in the reverse repos and how big of a step that the Federal Reserve, not only were they taking, but Jay Powell essentially saying, hey, by the way, we're ready to stop selling treasuries altogether. So starting June, they're only going to sell $25 billion a month in treasuries. And Jason, I think that will not last very long. And saying that, once again, chatter now is, are they going to have to switch gears? How fast to quantitative easing if Japan continues to struggle? If China continues, because you got to remember, China's doing the same thing, right? China's keeping letting their currency get weaker and weaker. They continue to sell dollars. By the way, when we talk about what was Japan doing with those dollars, they were selling them. Right? They sold, we don't know. They haven't told us the number. We're guessing about $70 billion in dollars just this week alone. So when you think about the Fed saying, well, we're going to cut 35 billion a month, Jason, that's still not enough, right? I mean, that still means more treasuries hitting the market.
Yeah, it's not as popular as it used to be, is it, Joe? When foreign countries and then, of course, domestic holders of this stuff want to, and here's the other thing, Joe. We're in the middle of a massive year of turning over old debt and trying to replace it with new debt with higher rates. The next couple of years with this trying to turn this over, and this is, I think, where they're trying their soft landing. They want to try to turn this over into this higher rate debt so they can keep the rates above zero from now on. It just doesn't look like they factored in how much debt and how much of an appetite the government has to spend money.
Yeah, and this has been a big problem. And this was another miss. This is Janet Yellen. This is all on her. When rates were still zero, we should have been locking up these low rates in 10, 20, and 30-year notes. But they didn't want that because that would have caused interest rates to move higher Instead, they did it all in short term. And like Jason said, from here on out now, it's an avalanche of debt that needs to be rolled over every year. Patriot Radio News Hour. Get your gold and silver put away. We'll be right back. 9510592, 5-ounce silver bars down to $150 today. $10 liberties, 1 through 19, $12.65. 20 or more, $12.60. 50 or more, $12.50 at 800-951-0592. And, well, I don't know where Jay Powell's going, man. Remember, he's saying that labor costs, they're going to start cooling off. You know what? He did bring up the JOLTS thing yesterday. It was kind of funny. That was one of his big points of emphasis. You know, less people are quitting. Job openings are going to go away. Labor costs are going to go down. Well, today, unit labor cost in the first quarter soared 4.7%, well above the 4% expected. The highest labor cost in over a year. And Jason, let's not forget California did their little thing in April, right? So labor costs continuing to go the opposite way, but magically, don't worry, everybody. Here's what's going to save us: is the renters out there when their leases are up, somehow magically they're going to get able to pay less. I don't know how, but that's what Jay Powell's saying. Apparently, nobody's leases were up in January, February, March, April, May, but at some point later, that's what's going to happen, and that's what they're banking on is for inflation, I guess, to come down at some point, sooner or later, maybe. But either way, we're not raising rates, and we don't see stagflation, and we don't even see inflation, Jason.
You know, I rented some places when I was younger, and I never had my rent lowered. Every time I signed a lease or a new lease, you know, I never had my rent lowered. I don't know. I don't think it matters what the market is. I mean, once that price is set, I'll have to ask some listeners out there maybe in the next hour. I've never had my rent go down. I'm sure it's happened, but I don't see that as a possibility ever. I mean, why would a landlord want to lower the rent? I mean, right? There's always reasons to keep the rent up.
I don't either. I don't know. I guess what they're going to move somewhere, and the rent's magically going to be cheaper. I don't know. I didn't understand the logic either. But this
maybe he thinks people are going to move to different places, and then there'll be competition for rent, and that'll lower the rent. Maybe that's what he's implying. Why don't you just be a little more direct? Say, hey, people will go. There'll be competition for rent, and the rents will go down when you move to your next place. It's just if you stay in the same place, those rents aren't going down. Maybe Joe. Maybe in a few markets, right? Maybe.
Now, it is Thursday, so we did get jobless claims. Now, remember, what is this, week 7 or 8 now where I'm just 210. Just say 210. Right? 210. Well, guess what? 208 again. That was what they said last week. Yeah, apparently it was the exact same. Like I said, I've been doing this for over 20 years. This is incredible. This is, I don't even know, like, statistically, how this is, like, you have a better chance, I think, of winning the lottery, winning the Powerball. This is like 12, 13, 14 weeks in a row where the number is almost exactly the same every single week. I mean, it hardly moves. It doesn't work that way, but apparently, Jason, this is the way we do. You know what? I know in school, right, they're teaching kids how to do math differently, right? It doesn't matter what the answer is. It doesn't matter if you get the answer right or not. It's about the process, right? It's about the process of coming up with the wrong number. Apparently, that's what we're doing in government now. Well, you know what? We already know what we want the number to be. You make it so the number meets what we want. We want 210. You make sure it's somewhere near 210. Whether it's right or wrong, who cares?
I do remember, though, after COVID, and all the shutdowns. I think weren't we over 600 for like a big long stretch? It was a totally different situation. But I remember how big those numbers were. It was ridiculously huge numbers, but it stayed at 600,000 for I don't remember how long it was, like 3 or 4 months in a row. There was 600,000 jobless claims reported every Thursday. So I guess there are situations where it's been like that.
Yeah, but that was, states shutting down. But again, outside of this, and I hate to say it, it's 2024 now. We're years past it. It's incredible to see these numbers because Challenger Grain and Christmas keeps saying layoff announcements keep rising. How about Google today? You guys see Google laying off even more workers? And even worse, oh, by the way, we're firing U.S. workers, and we're going to move jobs to Mexico and India. Back again, you know what? That makes sense to me. When I looked at the labor cost numbers coming out today, that makes sense to me. Right? Doesn't it, Jason? Are we going back to this whole thing now where these companies are like, wait a minute, hey, with technology today, why am I paying a U.S. worker this? I can hire 2 or 3 people in Mexico or 2 or 3 people in India for the price of paying one U.S. worker.
Right. But even with that though, your observation is valid. Why is it always just 210,000 jobless claims every Thursday? Because if they're hiring cheaper workers or something of that nature, they got to replace somebody going out, right? And there just doesn't seem to be the numbers going out that reflect the things that are being reported in the news, right, Joe?
Yeah, it's going to be, I don't know, this is...
Might be the 2 and 3 jobs people, though. There is a tremendous amount of double and triple job people, though, and they can't make those claims.
Yeah, record amounts of people working multiple jobs. Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason wrapping up a Thursday. Final segment coming up. 800-951-0592. Final segment on the Thursday. No movement and rates going to be higher for longer, but don't worry, they're not going to raise rates. There's no stagflation. Heck, there's not even inflation, but miraculously sometime later, inflation will get better. But the real problem really now is the debt, right? And it's not just ours, and that's the thing. It's not just our debt. Everyone's debt. And the problem is when everyone's got problems, they need to sell whatever their reserves that they have, right, to prop up their economies, prop up their currencies. Well, guess what they have? Dollars. Look at what we talked about with Bloomberg, talking about how much money Japan has, right? And they've got to, that $150 billion, they got to replace that cash. They can't just spend it all. Okay, now we're just no. They're going to be selling treasuries because that's what they have. Look at it. The massive cut in quantitative tightening announced yesterday by Jay Powell of the $60 billion in treasuries, $35 billion taken off the table. So more than a 50% haircut, and the other 25, he let it be known it won't be there much longer. Get that gold and silver put away because this is it, right? This is kind of we didn't know how much debt was going to be too much. Kind of figuring it out now, aren't we? 5-ounce silver bars at $150 a piece. $10 gold liberties. The half-ounce fractional gold liberties, 1866 to 1907. Private gold. What does that mean? I mean, you can buy it, sell it, trade it in any quantity, and there's no 1099. I'm not asking you for your driver's license. I'm not asking you for your Social Security number, and you don't have to provide a 1099. That's a pretty good deal, I think. I don't know. You decide. 1 through 19, $1,265. 20 or more, $1,260. 50 or more, $1,250 at 800-951-0592. 0592. And it's going to be very, very interesting over, let's just say, for the next 7 months. How much debt do we actually have to roll over? The Treasury already said, okay, tax season, not quite as good. We're $40 billion light in tax revenue. Third quarter, right? They already admitted, hey, we're probably going to have to sell close to $1 trillion more in securities, but that doesn't count, right? If all of a sudden Japan's got to step up, Jason, that number can get a lot bigger very quickly. But the big thing, you know what they didn't tell us about? Q4. How much debt, and I think Q4 is going to be a record. I think we'll be somewhere $1.25 trillion for the quarter. I'm hoping it's not higher than that. But, Jason, I just don't see a way out of this. The Fed can't raise rates because, well, that costs the government too much money. They want inflation to go away, but the stories are telling of how it's going to go away. The data says it's not, and the story really doesn't make that much sense, does it?
I guess we'll have to wait and see the data.
Wait to see the data. That's right. 800-951-0592. While they're waiting, get yourself protected.
3-star General Michael J. Flynn, head of the Pentagon Intelligence Agency, knew all the government's dirty secrets.
He was one of the most respected generals in the military.
Flynn knew what the intel world had been up to. He understood its funding.
He ordered the first audit of the use of contractors. This set off alarm bells.
The explosive new documentary, Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost, uncovers the facts behind this scandal.
Flynn told the truth. He was the most dangerous person for Donald Trump to hire.
I find out the worst enemy that I'm going to face in my life is right here in America. They took my assessment and they wanted me to change it. And I was like, I'm not changing it.
They had to get rid of Flynn.
With in-depth interviews, archival footage, and never-before-seen personal records of the man behind the headlines.
I just felt like I was drowning.
Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost. Available now. Watch it today. Go to salemnow.com. salemnow.com.